Time keeps on leaving and we keep on moving. When do we pass on our wisdom to the youth? My veteran story, lost arts discussions, fireside chats with a bourbon or two. It's time to hear the stories by military veterans. Get yourself ready. It's the Lost Arts Podcast. The Lost Arts with Andrew Cox. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Lost Art Podcast. That podcast is giving a voice to our veterans. On today's episode, we're going to have part 2 with Lukma McBride as he continues telling his incredible journey in the Marine Corps. With that, if you're enjoying the podcast, then don't hesitate to go to our website. That's thelostart.podbean.com. You can go on there. We have a merchandise tab. You can go in there, buy some merchandise, kind of like this cool hat that I got going here where it says "Stay motivated, change your socks." But you can get some gear, whatever. You can also view us on YouTube it's at The Lost Art with Andrew Cox. And if you want to be a guest, then please email me at thelostartwithandrewcox@gmail.com. Try to make it easy. It's all the same. With that, all right, we got Lukma back. Hey, welcome back.
Thanks, Andrew.
Awesome. Hey, I think where we left off was right about the time that we were going to transition and you were going to become an officer. Is that right?
Yeah, precisely. So after our time in the depot, that Marine Corps recruit depot San Diego, I had progressed, and after my time as a senior drone instructor, got selected to go teach at the drone instructor school. And one of my very close friends at the time, Robert Cruz, he was in Charlie Company with me. So Robert Cruz and I were talking about, putting in a commissioning package, a meritorious commissioning package, to transition from enlisted to officer at the time. Now, again, like many things in the Marine Corps, that seemed such a long, so far-fetched. It seemed almost impossible a thing to do. And we try to talk about our game plan on how we would approach this. First, we have to go back to college, and it had been 12 years since I'd been out of college. And so, and it also went with your records. So we just both agreed that, nah, this isn't for us because you have to be a water walker, as we call them. This is for like really Marines who are heavy hitters. But at the time, we both have very high PFTs. I generally run 300s. And so I figured, even with that, even the fact that we're successful drone instructors, even with the combat deployments, we still felt like this was a bridge too far, And so I just kind of sat on it. Robert ended up going to teach at SOI as a PMI over there at MCT, instructing, marksmanship to the recruits. And in any case, one day he had called me and said, "Hey, I signed up at Miracosta College or something to that effect down there." And so he wanted me to go register for college. And I was giving him the runaround, like, yeah, I'm not quite sure. So Robert's like, "Hey, man, I'm not getting off the phone until you walk your butt down there to the education center and at least inquire." And I was like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah, just go do it right now. I'll stay on the phone." So I credit like me going back to school to that moment. I mean, Robert, literally, like when you got friends like that in the Marine Corps, push you. I mean, he calls like, "I'm not getting off the phone." So I get out there, be like, "All right, man." So we just kept talking, again, 3 years rather in the drill field. You build close rapport with people. I mean, same with me and you,
Oh, yeah.
And so it's like I wouldn't say quite a combat deployment, but I tell you the rigors, the human factors of it are very much closely tied. I mean, the long hours, absence from family for such a long time, almost 3 years. You hardly see your kids. I mean, I don't think any of us knew who our kids' teachers were or what grade they were in, let alone their teacher. And I think just like 3 years of just giving all you have to those Marines, those recruits, so they could become the best Marines they can be. And so that kind of commitment, I mean, and that's why I say hats off to drone instructors, but that kind of commitment takes a toll, but also builds camaraderie. I mean, it just forges such close relationships,
Yeah.
So in any case, Robert stayed on the phone. I went to the education center, and lo and behold, I already had a lot of college done, both prior to the Marine Corps and then all the additional courses I had accumulated in the span of 12 years. So I think I had 6 years left for an associate's degree. And obviously after that, I had, the thing was at 30 credits like left for my bachelor's, 30 to 60 credits, I think. So in any case, I went and started school that day and registered and started my first trial course, right? 10-week commissioning course. 10-week course rather. And so I did that, finished it in 10 weeks. And then I started doubling up my courses. I was I was an instructor at DI school for a year and 6 months. And I had started shortly after I got there. So by the time I was I was finished with my tour on the Recruit Depot, I was really close to my bachelor's. In fact, I was 6 classes short of my bachelor's in political science.
Wow.
And yeah, and I did that at the what was it, Columbia College? I think it's Columbia College. It's called, on base at the Education Center. And so I went from that and put in my commissioning package, and I was selected on the board, and I was shocked, got selected to go be an officer, and went to my 10-week officer candidate school in Quantico that September, actually. So I left Recruit Depot in 2012, and at the end of that year or mid-year there, I was in Quantico learning how to be an officer.
Very nice.
Yeah.
And how was your time there? Like going from recruit training, right, to a drill instructor, and now you're at OCS. Like what are the differences? What do you see?
Man, so I'll tell you what, like the experience, I'll start with the experience first, and I'll dive into the differences. But
okay.
So my experience there, when we got there, I remember the platoon sergeant had called us off to the side, all the drill instructors. There was 3 of us. 2 of them were drill masters from Paris Island, and I was coming from DI school.
Yeah.
So it didn't help. We kind of understood what was going on there. And so he said, hey, just, play the game. Don't create problems for us. You understand that this is training, is indoctrination. So don't fight the system, But so we got, we helped out as much as we can. At night, we try to teach drill, or in the evenings in the squad bay, to the Marines, to the candidates who are struggling. And so the 3 of us kind of worked together to bring everybody along. And we had a gunny with us too, Marlon Adams, and he just retired too. And in any case, he was really good because he was senior. He was about my age. I think he's 1 year older. And so collectively, we were able to kind of guide and lead the team. And so OCS was a great experience for me. Before going to OCS, though, I had a lieutenant colonel who told me one of the worst Marines he worked with, Marine officers he worked with, was a prior Marine. And so that kind of struck a chord with me. And he said it's because the guy was just too arrogant and too cocky. Because when you commission, mind you, I was a gunny at the time. I was a staff sergeant, but got promoted gunny. And so you get there and it's hard, right? A lot of people don't know how to kind of put all that off to the side and start from zero again as a candidate. And so, but nonetheless, though, you have a significant advantage over these candidates. I mean, they are learning how to put camis on. You were a staff NCO with combat deployments. I mean, you really have a real advantage. I mean, here we are getting yelled at and mentored and led by sergeant instructors, right? Half of which we already know them from the depot, you know, because they augment during the summer. So we see folks that we know from MCRD and we're like, oh yeah, that's one of my boys. That's one of my boys. But obviously we're candidates now, so we can't even say hi to them. If anything, they'll come and yell at you even more, you know?
Yeah.
And so, but in any case, he was right. You do have a marked advantage. And that advantage is only going to last a few years, right? Before you know it, though, about 6 years, that lieutenant who you used to pick on and all of that is probably getting ready to look at captain at that point. And I don't think by that point, I mean, he knows enough to be dangerous. And so if you rest on your laurels, you know, you're going to find yourself outclassed by these up and coming officers. Because by the time you guys are captains, at least mid-career captains, you're definitely, the game is the playing field has been leveled at that point.
Yeah.
So the problem was, I guess, in his experience for that lieutenant colonel in particular, was that this officer never transitioned. Basically, stayed staff NCO with officer rank on him. And after that conversation, rather the mentoring session he had with me, it really impacted me. And so I didn't want to be that person going into OCS. And so I just kind of flew under the radar the rest of the time. I just kept my mouth shut, and I always question. I would always second question the things that I'm doing, whether or not, is this something that I'm doing from a staff NCO perspective, or is this something an officer would do? And so it was a hard transition because you're trying to discover your new self, right? And in the Marine Corps, we have multiple identities, and usually one dominant identity. But it's hard when you have a dominant identity and you have to essentially put that entire identity away.
Yeah.
And if I could equate it, give a better example, is transitioning was more, when you're a parent and you're a father and you come home, you transition from being, a drill instructor or something like that, or a chief, or maybe you are an instructor, or you're a platoon sergeant, you're a leader, and you transition, on your commute to the house, and you kind of come off of the hill there a little bit on the edge, and you see your kids, and it's back to, cupcakes and doing all the things with the kids that you do. You got daughters, and you go do your play dates with the daughters, and you see, but you have to assume a different personality, a different identity of a parent at that time. But we don't have to completely throw away one. You don't have to completely just come home and stop being a Marine. But when you commission, it's very dangerous to carry that staff NCO identity with you, because it's a clutch. Though you have the experience, anytime you yell or you scold somebody or you discipline, it's like, you're going gunny on me. You're going staffs on. And really, that whether that's justified or not, that really is a perception, and then it becomes reality because enough people say it, then that's the truth. And so I was very aware of those pitfalls going into there. So I would say my first few years as an officer, I was just trying to figure out who I was as an officer, and I reconciled that at the end, because instead of just kind of trying to completely, discard my experiences as an enlisted, I actually embraced it and I built upon it. And I think that's when I felt way comfortable. For instance, like I love being still, I go above and beyond when it comes to courtesy, and that's something I had ingrained in me even as a drone instructor. You stand up parade rest talking to peers, and so I try to do away from that and to be more relaxed, or maybe not as formal, and it just wasn't natural for me. And so at some point I agreed, I decided, well, if my professionalism makes you uncomfortable, then that's a you problem, not a me problem. I'm doing the right thing, so I shouldn't feel uncomfortable doing the right thing. So I got little things like that I learned to reconcile. Like, what makes me comfortable is, hey, show courtesy and respect, show Marine Corps ethics and all of this, and our customs and tradition and all that. And so the things I used to preach and taught and ingrained in others, and then things that were ingrained in me, and I just couldn't throw it all away. Now, there's a lot of other things about that are very different when you're an officer, and that comes with just time and experience. But yeah, that was really my transition there. What was different in boot camp, having been a drone instructor and then having been a candidate? I'll tell you the difference, man. Like recruit training, you have 3 months of training recruits. The only thing they're supposed to say, at least when we went through, is like 3 words, right? Your 3 key words.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. No, sir. Aye, sir.
That's right.
You figure those 3 things out, you're going to survive. You're going to graduate more than likely. Keep your mouth shut. When you're told to do something, you acknowledge it. Yes, sir. If you're told to do something that you're not supposed to do, then yep, you say no, sir. And then anything else in between, aye, sir, I acknowledge it. That's it. And then scream and work hard. That's it.
Right.
Scream. Be loud and be vicious and be violent and all of that. Be aggressive, rather, not violent. Yeah. And so I get to OCS, and the first week after forming and all of that, the drill instructors kind of show you a little bit, and they established a chain of command, like leadership billets. And we had a whiteboard, and they posted the schedule. Like a drone instructor schedule that we used to carry in our cover.
That's right.
They posted it. And so then the assigned platoon commander for that day, Canada platoon commander, would read that. He had his own chain of command, or she had their own chain of command, and they had the platoon sergeant, they had their squad leaders, and so on and so forth, and they figured it out. Now, can you imagine training day 5? You post the schedule up, and you're like, "Hey, guys, squad leaders, come here. You're marching them next door." They'll do it. Do you know how I know they'll do it? Is because I've seen it done in OCS. Granted, there's an age disparity there as well. You know, these guys are college graduates by and large, and so they're in their mid-20s, and you're looking at 18-year-olds. But that is a reality of it, and that was the biggest change I saw. I was just floored by how much leadership is entrusted in them, and that is what. And it makes sense though if you think about it. This makes sense. You're expecting a lieutenant, a second lieutenant, to come into the fleet, assume command of a platoon, and lead that platoon. So from the inception, from the very first day, officers are taught to lead. They're bred as leaders,
Right.
right? And it is very critical that we do that, because you can't have someone come in the fleet who's kiddish, who's afraid to lead, who doesn't have, and it's just not going to work out. Marines look up to the leaders. Every organization wants to look. A lot of things, like it rise and falls with the leader, whoever is in charge, and the burden is very significant. And I mean, you don't. There's no grace period as an officer. Your first day on the job, your first day in the fleet, you could have a suicide.
Yeah.
You know, and there's no grace period. Your first day on you might have a DUI or something, or you may just report and they tell you, "Hey, platoon commander, this Marine did something significant. We need to write him an award." Like you really need to go there. You need to go day one ready to work. There is no grace period. And by and large, you know, we hope that none of these things, these crises appear on day one, but that's just a luck of the draw at that point. Okay, you really don't have a grace period as an officer, right? And we can't take that chance. So therefore, a lot is invested in their training to make sure that they come ready. And I truly believe in the process, because when I left there, I was different. I was different than when I went there in only 10 weeks. So I understood, you know, they preach a lot about, you know, your ethics, your discipline, your integrity, you know, your character and leadership, but largely on leadership. And so I think that's a different focus, right? We teach the Marines to really, the recruits as they transition to Marines, to really be disciplined, obey orders, understand the you know, core values and embody them. But for officers, it's more focused on leadership and decision making. And a lot of the exercises or the events are built on that. And of course, physical fitness, because you also got to have somebody who's capable of leading from the front. And so, and all to say, like, I think seeing it from both sides, it truly balances out. And I think we really do it well in the Marine Corps, both from the officer training and then enlisted.
Very nice. That's a great answer.
Yeah. All right. So I went from that, you know, the basic school for 6 months, and I thought it was gonna be 6 months. So I went unaccompanied because I was hoping that I'd get orders somewhere back to Pendleton. Well, 6 months turned to I went to the infantry officer school right after. And that was another course. Then I followed that with Scout Sniper Unit Leader course, and then I went to Dam Neck for my MOS school. And so I ended up being there for about 1.5 years, you know, Virginia.
Holy cow!
Yeah, that was a long time. And so my son was born during that time. Isaac was born my second week at the basic school. And the next time I connected with him was December 2015. And I went there summer of 2014. So yeah, about 1.5 years before I finally was home with my son. You know, I got to see him on break, on a Christmas break for a short duration. And I think that was it. Next time I saw him is when I was driving back to Pendleton to go to school. And so my time at school was very, very much extended. I think it's not typical, because usually you get 6 months of the basic school, you know, which is kind of like the MCT SOI for officers. Very robust as well. A lot of decision making in that, a lot of leadership, a lot of physical fitness, but a lot of studying. Academically heavy, is very rigorous. But I think the 6 months is perfect and sufficient. In any case, they go from that, and usually there's an MOS school right following that, and I think on average, I think they're about 8 weeks, unless you're a pilot, you know, that's a much longer process. But about 8 weeks or 6 to 8 weeks, and you should be going to the fleet. Well, you tack on about another full year into my school before I even had. And on the tail end, I used to be on McQuiz when we were drill instructors. So I was an instructor, water survival training. So I left that and ended up going to the basic reconnaissance primers course, and then basic reconnaissance school right after that. And so I got in the span of 1.5 years, 3 different MOSs, and ended up being a recon platoon commander with the 1st Recon Battalion. So that was my inception into the fleet. I did a lot of the school, and again, my background is both my physical fitness, and then being a McQuiz and being able to swim also worked in that favor. So went to 1st Recon, did my 3 years there, did a deployment with them on the MEU, took a platoon, and as a platoon commander, that's when I really started to work, because everything in between there was just school. And I emphasize a lot of things, award writing, setting the culture, the climate there. But by and large, what I want to say about the recon communities, I'll tell you what, if you're looking for truly varsity, performance, the recon Marines, right, bar none. And I've been, this is my 24th year now in the Marine Corps. And I'll tell you, like, recon Marines are perhaps some of the most disciplined. The closest thing that I could equate in terms of proficiency, and I told you this when we were in France, is the band. No, I say that in earnest.
Yeah.
I say that in earnest because no other MOS spends so much time. Well, I wouldn't say no other, I don't know all MOS. The ones I'm exposed to. Of the MOSs I've been exposed to and I've seen the Marine Corps, the band is rigidly disciplined. I mean, and more than anybody. People who watch things like the Silent Drill Team, the marching, you watch the Marine Corps Recruit Depot bands, the capacity to play these musics, march at the same time, you're like walking and eating, right, with a spoon and stuff. And so, and the rehearsals, right? The rehearsals and repetition until you get it perfect. You go to recon, it's the same culture there where, where they're the demolition guy, or maybe they're just your jump master for parachute operations, or they're the riggers who are responsible for packing it, or he's your sniper, or the breacher, or you got your JTACs. All these different skill sets within the recon community. I mean, the Marines, that really is their profession, their profession.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about a Marine being proficient, like, do you view your job as a skill set, as a profession that you wake up every day? I mean, snipers are snipers, right? First.
Yeah.
But it's not just for looks and for show or whatever, but I mean, the amount of training they go through to maintain proficiency, the capacity to deliver first round effects on a target, at 1 kilometer away or further, 1,000 yards and so on. I mean, this degree of commitment requires a lot, your JTACs and getting munitions from aircraft. I mean, so I was thoroughly impressed by the time I left there, because the capacity and the caliber of Marines we have, the maturity of the Marines that we have at recon. And then, I mean, some of this stuff is just seemingly surreal, right? So you look at land navigation on the ground, and we and recon Marines are known for their capacity to navigate on the ground. But when you're able to navigate in the sky under parachute, right, at night, I mean, at least in the daytime, there's landmarks, and you could, you saw this tree earlier, or maybe you saw this ravine and stuff. But when it's dark, it's pitch black. At nighttime, it's pitch black in the sky. And the Marines get, they exit an aircraft. Everybody's doing what they're supposed to do. They stack up, they form up, they deploy their parachute, they get in formations. And then you got your low man who's navigating that team from miles away to come land the team directly where they're supposed to be. I mean, on the X. I mean, this is what I mean by varsity performance. The Marines are so incredibly capable, and they do this with full mission profile, with all their combat equipment, and it seems trivial when you see them on the videos, and Marines are jumping, must be cool, until you're there under canopy at night and you have six to eight Marines, and they have a place to go. They're not just jumping for funsies. I mean, they're traveling and they're in
Right.
formation at night. So I would say that would probably go one of them. And similarly for our scuba teams as well. You know, you got your dive team, and some are with scuba, some are with your Mark 25, and they go out there and I mean, same thing. I mean, pitch black. If anybody or any of your listeners scuba dive at night, you see that the ocean at night is an abyss. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no stars there to illuminate the ocean floor. You know, you
Yeah.
put your face in the ocean at night, and that's a whole different kind of darkness there. But same thing. I mean, they insert from miles away and they swim to shore, all under surface and maintaining their azimuth and maintaining their navigation points, and then they've reached the beach where they're supposed to be, and then that's just going to work. That's just your commute. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. I
whether
like.
you're doing your dive or your jump, that you were just commuting at that point, and not now you have to get to work. You know, and then you have to do the work. So it just hats off to recon community for that. I mean, there's so much I could talk about in that aspect, but that really opened my eyes to just the degree of maturity and proficiency. And one lesson I took among many was that everybody has a voice. You know, so a lot of
Yeah.
units, or rather the military rank structure, sometimes creates barriers for communication, right? And in many cases it does. And so the junior person may not always feel comfortable to voice their concern or to voice their opinion. But the recon community, I mean, everybody has a voice. Your point man could be your most junior guy on the team. The point man says stop, you stop. You know, if anybody else throws up a halt or a freeze signal, regardless of rank, you freeze because that Marine saw something. You know, so the point is, and their opinions matter. If you're going on a mission profile and somebody says, "Hey, this isn't safe," it's probably because this figures something was not safe, and it comes natural there. There's no, well, I'm a corporal, so I'm gonna go talk to the sergeant, who's gonna go talk to the gunny, who's gonna talk to the sir, and tell them that I think this isn't safe. You know, the Marines would just be like, "This is stupid. We're not doing it."
Yeah.
You know, but that environment calls for it. When everything you do is what the majority of your work is high risk, you don't have the luxury of ego or arrogance or anything like that to cloud your judgment. You know, so
Yeah. Absolutely.
you're open to all inputs, and it has to be that way. So there's so much that I took from my time there at First Recon. Learned a lot, was humbled a lot, and took that and transitioned. Went to school actually. So right after Recon, I went to the Expeditionary Warfare School in Quantico. This is really like captain's PME school, so to speak. It's got sergeant's course for captains, right?
Okay.
Except it's 10 months long, right? So it's not your short, 6-week course there. So in any case, like I've been to all the academies, sergeant's corporal's course, sergeant's course, career course, and I learned a lot. But if you look at it in terms of PME, and I try to give the perspective to the Marines, is like you can't complain that you're going to a 6-week PME course. I have to go to a 10-month one, you know.
Yeah.
And so, in any case, when I went to the Expedition Warfare School, another tremendous experience, and I think that's where I really started to grow professionally, right? Like platoon commander, you're applying a lot of things you were taught in your formative years, TBS, IOC a little bit, and you take all your schools and all that, you try to apply them the best you can with some leadership and judgment. But you start professionalizing your experience, your knowledge when you start going to PME, and for officers at least in this case. And so when I went to the Expeditionary Warfare School, again, like you're surrounded by peers, right? You got about a classroom of all captains. Your instructors are majors. You have a lot of lieutenant colonels who influence you. And it's here at the Marine Corps University in Quantico. And it's really like it's not as advertised as I would like to see it, right? I think we do it a disservice to PME because there's the institution, and then there's like the mob, right? The Fleet Marines who are just the mob, and the opinions abound about PME. But gosh, man, I mean, the impact the PME has on our institution is incredible. I mean, you look at things like MCDP 1 and General Alfred Gray, and you walk around and you see Alfred Gray Memorial here, or you see Alfred Gray Monument there, or whatever, the Alfred Gray Research Center. And you don't make the connection until you go to PME and realize, how profound an impact that people like General Gray, the late General Gray recent, and like General Gray and them had on the Marine Corps, And then you also see a lot of our general officers, when they were captains, have gone to a lot of the same PME schools right here in the same Marine Corps University, the same campus and same classrooms. And so there's a lot of legacy in here. And I mean, anytime you go and spend 10 months to learn something, particularly in warfighting, you're going to leave them much better than you were when you got here. And yeah, I left there, went to 1st Radio Battalion, was a company commander there. I was in ops for a little bit. Opened my eyes to a whole new dynamic. I mean, I was with recon, and then here I am with Radio Battalion with a lot of intelligence and analysts and linguists and whatnot. And I'll tell you what, this was another experience that I wouldn't change for. I'm so blessed. I feel blessed. The Marines that I've been around, they've taught me so much. All the Marines at Radio Battalion, I mean, so much on leadership. A lot of the things they've taught me, I carried over back home on parenting. The ability to listen, putting your experiences aside and reconciling the differences we have in different age groups and expectations and our new cultures. And man, I'm glad of that. And I mean, I love those Marines. I sat in a brief once with a general officer who asked if we truly loved our Marines. And at the time, I wasn't in a Radio Battalion yet, and I found that kind of odd. I was like, do you really love your Marines? When I got to Radio Battalion, I really love my Marines, and I say that genuinely and sincerely. I mean, we built such a tight, cohesive unit. I knew every single one of the Marines, and not just like the superficial details. I mean, we collectively as a team knew every facet about our Marines. It was so great because now you could better answer their demands and better set them up for success and leadership. If you are lucky. If you are privileged enough, you only get to lead for about 2, maybe 3 years in that command. And then that's it. That's somebody else's time. So it was my time, my 2 years to have the most impact I could have on each and one of them until it's my time to leave, and the next person comes in. And so I took that responsibility to heart, and thank God for the team that I had as well. I had incredible first sergeants. 3 in the span that I was there, and
wow,
God, all of them just pipe hitters, man. 2 of them are sergeant majors now. Just incredible leaders. I had Sergeant Major Bardo, and just a ball of fire, right? She was a drone instructor in the past. And I had Sergeant Major Marufo, and Marufo was a recruiter, so I had a little bit of everything. I had that intensity, that motivation, that drive, that rod. Let's get after it. With Sergeant Major Bardo, but Sergeant Major Marufo also taught me the human dynamics of it, the human interactions and how to negotiate, with people, how to get what you want through different means. It's not just authoritarianism all the time. It's not a dictatorship. And so I learned so much thanks to them. And then I had right on the tail end, had another first sergeant. And again, like still learning and growing all together, and couldn't ask for a different, but it turns out right after that I got selected for Command and Staff College. So here I am in Quantico going to school now at the Marine Corps University again, at the Command and Staff College, and getting this studying military studies here. So
and then
so that's where I'm at.
How long have you been there?
We graduate here in June, so I'm pretty excited.
Okay, very nice.
Graduate here June. And then right at graduation, I got a few weeks, and I have to report to the Air Force Air University over in Maxwell Air Force Base. So I got selected to go attend the School of Advanced Air and Space Studies with the Air Force. So I'm pretty excited for that as well. Can't wait.
Wow. So is that going to open you up to be able to do more joint stuff, or?
Yeah. So those are planner 0505 MOS. So you're the MACTAF planner, MOS producing schools. So it's the same thing with the SAW School of Advanced Warfare, and then SAMS with the Navy as well. So School of Advanced Maritime Warfare, Maritime Studies rather. And so these schools all provide, MacDef planners. And so on tail end, you have a 3-year payback tour, but you essentially work on strategy development, at maths, and maybe at geographic combatant commands or something to that effect.
Yeah, the MacTaff Schoolhouse, they're fall under McKiss, but they actually fell under the Marine Detachment here at the School of Music because they were on Little Creek with us, so they were
Yeah,
under our command for a little while. It was just pretty wild.
yeah,
They just recently moved back to Dam Neck, though.
yeah. And that's like a 6-week course, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
No, this is a 4-year, some master's producing school.
yeah. No,
Yeah.
that's the basic course, the
Oh,
very
okay.
very
Yeah.
basic. Yeah. So
Yeah. No,
in
but
fact, it might have been 4 weeks. I can't
yeah.
remember.
And you know what though, I do encourage people to attend those courses. By and large, like unless you're forced to go to it, a few people put their hands up and seek that stuff. But everybody's a planner, and the more you understand planning, gosh, the better you are. And who knows, maybe you'll be planning a trip to France to go support the Bellawood, memorial service and stuff. So
That's right.
yeah.
That's right. So, and we kind of skipped over that in when you were talking. So you were at Recon whenever you went over with us, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I was so excited at that time. It was after my deployment, so it's perfect timing. I was getting ready to execute orders to Expedition and Warfare School in Quantico.
Yeah.
And I saw your email, but see, now things have changed. And this ties to your previous question on like, did Marine Corps have my language skills recorded? Do we have a pool of linguists? And just the same way you were able to find me on there is now, we have at least a First Marine Division at the time. All the
Hmm.
Marines who spoke foreign languages with division, right? With the Marine
Yeah.
Division, they had a roster and they had a list of those Marines. And you come down and hit me up like, hey man, is this you? I was like, yeah, let's go.
It was
And
funny because I had gone to well, they were supposed to provide an interpreter. I can't remember. It might have been Mark or you was supposed to, and they didn't have anybody. And
yeah,
so I got a call from the head of our octo. It was like, we don't have anybody. Like,
yeah,
and I'm like, nah, it's First Marine Division. We'll find somebody.
yeah.
So I go up. I think it was like G3. I'm like, hey, do we have anybody? And they came out with a list of 3 names, and your name was on it. And I'm like, I wonder if this is the same guy.
Yeah.
I need to make a phone call, shoot an email. But it worked out, man.
They
And you
did,
did
man.
fantastic.
God, what a tremendous opportunity that was, man. I went there, and like France and Bellawood, not only for the historical context, and I'm so glad you reached out because I don't know if I ever would have thought to go visit Bellawood, on my
Yeah.
own. And unless you're at Marfor, you're up there. I mean, I don't see how else you would, think to go to Bellawood on on a field trip of some sort. So,
Mhm.
really appreciative and thankful for that experience. And what I took from it, remember, like of all the performance you guys did, a lot of these World War II veterans were there. There was one lady who was active and wounded during the Normandy landing because she was ushering the paratroopers down to safety, and they were kind of like the terminal the landing zones. They were all in the landing zones and illuminating it with their lamps and stuff, so the GIs would know where to land and so on and so forth. It was like the underground network that they had in France.
Yeah.
But to see these warfighters come out, and enjoy God, one night of concert of just like, military music, military orchestra. I mean, to me, like that was such a, again, like you experience in the Marine Corps. You join the Marine Corps
Yeah.
thinking you're just gonna do buddy rushes and attacking fighting holes. And here I am in France with you guys, and giving a speech in French and translating and then handing over, and you guys playing these concerts. And so while you guys did your work, I got to watch the crowd, and
Mhm.
wow, man, I mean, I'm just the impact that had on those communities, and they came out and they all had their stories. They all kind of reminisce on the good old days, and but so many people fought for freedom, man. So many people are part of the Allied effort, and when we go and play those music like you guys did on your concert, it brings takes everybody back, to those old days. And so
Yeah.
at least I got to see that from the sidelines, and I was thoroughly moved by a lot of those performances, and I was like, wow, man, this is good.
I got to tell you, when I talk to the music students and stuff and Marines as they're coming through, and I always try to relate to them
Yeah,
and say, you're in a job that we almost expect an immediate reaction of what we're doing and a positive one, because after we play a song, whether we did good or whether we did bad, everybody claps for us, right?
yeah,
So we're all about that instant gratification, as a musician. We love that.
yeah.
uh and I tell them, I'm like, it's not about you, and it's not about
Mm,
that satisfaction that you get there. What it's about is about something bigger. It's the Marine Corps. And
yeah,
then so when you go and you do a parade, or you go to Bella Wood, you go to all these different places and you get this accolades, and people are coming up, oh, you guys are wonderful, we love it, and da 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 da. Just remember, it's not about you. They don't love
yeah,
you, the
yeah,
individual. They love you and what you represent.
yeah,
uh and I always tell them, when you go back, go up to people and tell them, hey, I went and did a parade. And I just want to tell you, man, that people on the sidelines, they were screaming and they were saying, we love Marines and this and that. That was for you, man. You may be an admin and you sit behind a desk, but that's for you,
yeah,
or whatever. It doesn't matter what the MOS is. I said, but go back
yeah,
and tell them, because
yeah,
a lot of people don't get that, and it's
yeah, you
unfortunate.
know, yeah.
Yeah.
It ties back to the theme earlier we are talking about on leaving their legacy, forging their legacy. You're right. They may not know who played at the time. Everybody's wearing dress blues, so everybody looks the same,
Yeah.
you know. But they sure remember. And if you recall, like communities were coming out,
Hmm.
and you guys played at several of their veteran centers. And the one
Yeah.
at the Les Invalides in Paris, when we went
Hmm.
to the Hotel des Invalides,
Yeah.
and that's kind of like their VA center, and they still have apartments, but for veterans of the war, and they get to live there and so on. But and man, they were getting wheeled out, and to come listen to the music, and they enjoyed it, and they were surprised as well, kind of spontaneous when we showed up there. And
Hmm.
I remember they interacting with the Marines and so on and so forth. And then you guys played outside the
Yeah.
in Paris at once in the concert, and people were stopping. But in so many ways, I mean, performing in blues or in Bravos or Deltas or whatever uniform of the day is, I mean, you represent the Marine Corps. I mean, no better image, and that goes back on the proficiency. Now, I was equating it to being at the recon communities again, like everything. It may seem like it's music and we're having a good time, but there's so much behind the scenes that went through that. So much rehearsal, and the performance. You got one shot. You have one
Yeah.
shot to perform. Then it's just like the sniper. I mean, you take that shot, and that's the.
Yeah.
So you have that one shot to put it all together, and it
That's
has to
right.
be excellent. There's no other option. It has to be great, and then you
Yeah.
leave. But what you're doing is you're performing your best, but you created this symphony that's creating. It's a memory, it's an experience, and you impart that. But and people like you and I sit there and talk about it from years ago. I mean, we went there when 2019 is when we went up
Yeah.
there, right?
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, man, you got a tremendous impact. And I look back at that and think, wow, I'm so happy for that, because, and then being the band, you guys are front and center. So I was like, yeah, I kind of feel like I'm at the tip of the ceremony right now. I'm not in the back just carrying bags or something. I'm in the very front with the band, man. That was great.
Yeah. Yeah. Very
Yeah.
cool. Well, hey, I think you have an incredible story, and I do thank you for coming on. Like, just from growing up in Chad, and your whole experience throughout the Marine Corps, I think there's so many people out there that can take something from your
Yeah.
experiences and the positive attitude that you had throughout all of your career. So,
Yeah.
and still going. So you'll be a general officer before too long,
I'm too old.
and then you'll
We'll
hit
see.
me up. You'll hit me
I
up
will.
whenever that happens. So
We'll go fishing.
yeah, there you go.
Yeah, but I want to one more thing, Andrew.
Yeah.
As we wrap up over here, I just want to say that well, two things. First, I started a nonprofit in 2019.
Ooh. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
called Djoygona. Djoygona is a tribal language in southern Chad that means we are together. And usually when people travel, they go to their neighbors because they don't have anybody else to watch over their family or their farm or their crop. So they're like, hey, Joy Gona in that language was more like we are together, meaning I got your back, so to speak, right?
Hmm.
And so So I built that, I founded this nonprofit in 2019. It's a 501c3, so we're tax exempt. And then we work in Chad, in rural communities and the refugee camps. And a lot of people, are aware right now because past 2 years, there's been a war in Sudan. Prior to that, a lot of people know the term, Darfur, the region Darfur, and people associate a lot of the refugees. But that crisis still, it's ongoing. It never stopped. I mean, the influx of refugees. Most recently, there's a lot on the news now about the refugee crisis and this war. Granted, it doesn't get as much media attention as some of the other trendy news bits, but it is a huge problem in the Sahel. So as I mentioned, Chad is very poor. So imagine being one of the poorest countries and you are taking the brunt of the refugee crisis, right? The people fighting there, so people are fleeing. That's just a byproduct of all conflict, right? Armed conflict, people flee and they're pouring into this country that's already impoverished. And that country now has to leverage what resources don't exist to take care of this humanitarian crisis. And
Yeah.
so what we have done is we work. So basically, the nonprofit is Djoygona Sports for Peace and Development, and we work to counter extremism in the Sahel. In the Sahel region, it spans from Sudan all the way to Mauritania across Central Africa there.
Okay.
And so we started in Chad right now, and we've done several projects, and you'll see the link, if people look it up. We're on social media. We're on Facebook. We have a website. We're on Instagram as well, and Twitter, and we post updates as we do projects. And basically, we work with youth to really kind of bridge the gap and prevent extremism with the youth. I mean, and with the adults, usually we do community engagements, key leader engagements, and we work to bridge the gaps and prevent conflict and prevent and promote coexistence, peaceful coexistence. A lot of these countries, because they are so underdeveloped, there's a huge influence or propensity to be influenced by extremism, radicalization, terrorism. Because when you go to places, there's resource scarce. Any type of resource you provide is gonna get you some buy-in, right? So we work to counter that through the narrative, through the community engagements. We like to host soccer tournaments because soccer is so prevalent. And for all the combat vets, know very well that those who have deployed to Iraq or Afghanistan, you throw a soccer ball out there, war's over. At least for those 30 minutes that the kids are running around playing, it seems like, oh, there's no problem here. So
Yeah.
soccer or sports have this the power to bridge so much, inter community, interracial, even give more opportunities for young girls to get out and play. And play is important. We expect our daughters to go out and play. We don't see anything wrong with that. They go to the park, we take them here. You go in a lot of other countries, the cultural norms may preclude some women from being able to participate and enjoy some of the sports activity, which we know is healthy. I mean, I can't imagine not taking daughters out to go play or to the park because they're girls. So but some cultures are like that. However, through play, we're able to try to force and bridge that gap a little bit and allow them to get more buy-in, especially these young, vulnerable children in these refugee camps. So far, we've installed some water pumps. Water is very scarce there, and we tie the water to sports through hydration. So, kids are playing all day, but there's no water. I mean, when I say it's a scarce region, it's really scarce. And so, kids have to, we've documented videos of them too when we meet them down at the riverfront. Kids are walking. I mean, young kids, they get in groups and they leave their town or their village and they walk for miles to go fill up these jerry cans with water from the river and then hike it all the way back. And that's kind of like their daily commute,
Wow.
But these are kids. They're not in class because that's what they got to do. They got to provide while the parents are out in the farm or out with the herds or whatever the case may be. So we try to put a pump in the center of these little communities. That way the kids don't have to move as far. So that gives them more time. And if you have more time on your hands, then hopefully you can focus more on things like school, and other activities, maybe help out around the house, but you're not vulnerable. Sending kids on these treks as well, like miles and on ends. I mean, they're also vulnerable to attacks. There's predators. There's all kinds of things out there. And it's just not a safe environment for the kids. So far, we've done several pump projects. We're working on another one right now. That's from my conference group here at the command and staff. They were, nice enough, right? We pitched in together and we want to sponsor a pump and dedicate it to our conference group here. But by and large, we work to kind of bridge that. So really, counter extremism is our flavor here. Counter radicalization, and mainly just promoting peace and coexistence. One thing for our organization is, we're a small organization. I have a team that's in Chad, and and I do a lot of the coordination, the media. So we're very, very small. It's only a handful of us. We're less than 10 people in this whole organization.
Wow.
But we have done a lot just as 10 because we enroll a lot more volunteers. What makes us different is every penny goes towards projects. We don't have, a savings account for any other purpose. I mean, usually what we do is we generate the plan. Right now, we're trying to work in the Eastern Chad with the influx of refugees, right? There's a lot of international organizations. So we try to find gaps that the international organizations have. Sometimes due to security, foreign companies don't want to venture too far into some of these not so secure areas. But I
Yeah.
have a lot of local population. My whole team is local. They're all from Chad. They're all Chadians. So therefore, we can leverage contacts and get into those hard to get to regions, right? If the NGOs are already stretched out, we cover the gap on that too. So right now, we're trying to get up to the eastern side of Chad, where a lot of these refugees are coming. But nonetheless, the only time we do a crowdsourcing or we fund a project is when we actually do the budget for the entire project. And usually, because we're so small, usually the overhead cost is something that I cover or the team would cover, or we'll do another event just to cover overhead. But generally, every penny that goes directly to that project, because it's all about, like you mentioned, it's not about us. It's all about, man, one pump is gonna make a difference. One soccer
Absolutely.
ball, one soccer ball to play a full soccer game is 22, right? 11 on each side. So you put one soccer ball, you just put smile on 22 kids' faces,
Yeah.
and it may seem marginal, it may seem very trivial and very small scale, but I'll tell you what, man, you and I both have deployed. If you put a smile on one kid's face, it's worth it for that day, right?
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
so that's how we work on, just to make small impacts the best we can at our level, and then we go from there. So yeah, but thanks for letting me pitch that here. But really,
Yeah.
it's
No
just
problem.
it's another activity that I take on over here, and I'm very proud. I love my team in Chad, and they always come through, and nothing but integrity there, and I really love working with them. So
Awesome. Well, hey, if let's say somebody wants to donate, somebody wants to help out, something like that, uh what's the way to do that?
yeah, so we have links on our website. We have links on that. So we have a PayPal business account. So it goes to our PayPal. It goes into, we take Venmo as well. Zelle, we take a check. There's an address for the organization that if you Google it, it comes out. And so we usually take that, just transfer it. A lot of times I crowdsource through Facebook as well. I do it just through our official page on Facebook. And usually we look for a small budget, looking three to 5,000 is what we really cap for one project start to finish. And that allows us to get jerseys, soccer balls, and then the coaches, and we run a full. Usually it's about a 10-day, we call them caravans. So it's like a 10-day caravan where while they're building the pump, we're doing soccer tournament with the kids, and then we're working with the community leaders, and and we go from there. But yeah, there's definitely, we have links on PayPal, Venmo, and then they could mail a check, or so our website has a lot of links on there on how to donate and get involved. And it's not just the donations as well. If we have people with expertise who want to join the team, then we're always open for more people to join the team here at Djoygona, so we could continue building and making and scaling up the organization, and continue making better impacts or bigger impacts in the communities.
Yeah, that's awesome. And if you shoot me all the info, I'll make sure I put it
Okay.
on the website and stuff as
Yeah,
well.
I'll do that.
That way, anybody, they can just go in, click on the link, and go. So I
Yeah.
think that'd be good. So
Yeah.
awesome. Hey, anything else? Last party shots.
I really appreciate your plug on mental health. And just want to second that for all of our veterans out there. I mean, so many resources are available now. I mean, everything. I mean, everything has been revolutionized. So don't be at home fighting your battles. And that's the only thing I would say is, like, you have a fire team, you have an entire army of veterans behind you who love you, who care for you. I don't have to know you, and I still care for you. All right. So never fight your battles alone, man. Never go in a fighting hole knowing that the platoon is still in the base camp, dude. That nobody will do that. It makes no sense. Take your team with you. Open up. Talk to people. reach out for help. There's no shame in there. Reach out for help, build your team, and trust me, your team is going to stand up to the task. Your team is going to be behind you to fight with you, man. But don't fight your demons alone, man. Call us in. Let's get some of that action in there, and then we'll kick ass together.
That's awesome. I don't think I could have said it any better.
Thanks.
Lukma, thanks for coming on. Truly appreciate it. It's been fantastic hearing your story. To all the listeners out there, just remember what he was talking about. If you're struggling and need help, there's ways to do that. You can dial 988, press option 1. You can also text 939-288. And then if you don't want to do that, you'd rather chat online or something, you can also go to veteranscrisisline.net. Click on that chat icon. All of those options are going to put you in contact with somebody that can help you out and get you the help that you need. But one veteran life lost is one too many. I care about you. Lukman cares about you. The whole community cares about you. So please reach out for some help. Lukma, one more time, you rock. I don't care what anybody says. You're awesome.
Thank you.
To all the listeners out there. What's that? Oh, yeah, no problem. No problem. To all the listeners out there, stay motivated, change your socks.